Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the League's GG Nordic Sweden tournament. We're here for our playoffs. I am Darksoul. I'm joined by Annie Farr for some great League of Legends action. We saw some earlier on today, but we're bringing you another series. It is Rising Dawn Esports Lite versus Invulnerables. Now, Annie Farr, it's been a long time coming to you and myself casting together. I'm super excited for it. What do we have ahead of us?
We are going to have two very interesting teams coming in from the group stage now on the Swedish Winter Showdown. One of these teams seems to have a lot of synergy already built up. They had a little bit of a handicap qualifying to this tournament as their AD carry had to fill in the top lane, but now that they have the full roster, they seem to be a force to be reckoned with. We'll see how RDE Lite actually manage to take them down in the Rift, as we are already in Champion Select, and a couple bands have already went through.
We are indeed. It looks like Invulnerables aren't a fan of Arcane after all, or they're fans of Vi instead, taking that Jinx off the table. I love to see the Yume taken away, just because she is so annoying, especially in the team fights, so much lockdown available to her, and the amount of healing that you can get from that, the Grievous Wounds, doesn't really touch too much, so nice to see that taken off the board. And then you have a couple of pocket picks here and there taken away.
Yeah, it makes sense for the Nidalee to be taken away from the jungler on the side of Invulnerable, since it's basically his most played champion out of all the champions he's played throughout the whole season. Since it is the preseason already, we have a pretty good idea of what these champion pools might look like coming in, as they've basically had an entire season to play with him, and Finry specifically is a monster on this Nidalee. But the first pick ends up being the Graves, which is still very strong on the current patch. He can be played as an assassin or as basically a drain tank if he goes towards the healing with the Immortal Shield bow with the Bloodthirster and the crit and so on and so forth. And he is also great flex pick, so we'll see if Invulnerables actually want to put him on a lane with perma priority, or they want to put them in the hands of Finry and make him more of an assassin, try to hunt down the enemy carries.
I'm a little bit surprised the priority that they decided to put on the Graves, because it's not even the top 4 champions in solo queue for the top laner, mid laner, or the jungler for the side of Invulnerables. So a little surprising there when Lee Sin is up and available. But neither side decided to pick that up. We have the Gragas and now the Karma locked in for RDE Lite.
Wow, the Karma is interesting here. Since First Strike is out, I can probably figure out that this is going to be a solo lane pick into the Graves, I would assume, since she can actually contest his priority. She can never die to him whatsoever, and it's very easy for her to build, even if she goes towards the more tanky builds. But with First Strike, it's so easy for her to proc the extra damage, the extra gold, with no issues whatsoever. We were actually talking about this before the game started, that First Strike works better in mages because of the way that they can actually prolong trades however they so desire, while in some other champions like the Gangplank, for example, it's way harder to proc after that First Strike hit. So the Karma can fit perfectly into what the new meta is, so I'm excited to see what she can bring.
And I am excited to see Lonar locking in that Draven, his most played champion this season, tagged up with that Nautilus for all of that engage/disengage that you really love to see in that bottom side.
Yeah, because engage supports right now are very strong. They just have a lot of innate tankiness, a lot of damage, especially since they can actually build items like the Even Shroud and go completely bonkers. The Abyssal Masks is still a very good pickup, so we'll see exactly how this bot lane works. Since Lonar is a great player with this Draven, it just seems to be the strong side of Invulnerables right now. They will want to play towards this bot side. They will want to put this Draven ahead. But on the other side, we have a lethal tempo abuser, which is the Caitlyn. She can abuse that range very well on extended trades in the bot lane. She can be paired up with the Karma, even though this Karma would be very well suited for the solo lane. And then the Draven and the Nautilus will have very little ways of actually trying to get ahead during this lane, of actually trying to get pressure in plates, so they will need a lot more jungle attention if they want to get over the range that a Caitlyn and a Karma can offer.
Yeah, definitely have to be seeing Finry paying attention to that bottom side, especially since as a Draven, you want to be getting those stacks cashed in before he dies and loses half of them. Interesting to see the Victor actually taken away there, as we were talking about mages and the fact that they could proc that first strike a lot easier. I've heard that with that first strike, and then I think it's Shattered Crown.
Yeah, Crown of the Shattered Queen.
Yeah, Crown of the Shattered Queen, thank you. You just pair that up with the Victor and he just becomes obnoxiously tanky and just does so much damage.
Yeah, he really does. Any control mage in the mid lane just has the easiest of laning phases now, even in mirror matchups, with control mages versus control mages. The one who actually gets those trades started first, the one who actually gets that jungle attention to try to get that impact actually gets so ahead during the laning phase. So that's very interesting to see. We do see the Camille being picked here for Vestige in the top lane for RD Light, which keeps the Karma kind of hidden to an extent. It can still go mid lane. It can still try to nullify some presence for Loftician. But of course, it is expected now to go towards the support position because the Camille can be an answer to the Graves, as she can outscale him at least on a side lane point of view. But the Vex is definitely very good here. It also synergizes with what the rest of the team wants to do. The very explosive early game, the very high priority lanes that they have assured themselves of, and we'll see what Finry picks here to try to make sure that this team snowballs their way to victory.
Speaking of snowball,
it's Graves jungle.
Yone locked in.
Yeah, okay. It is a Graves jungle for Finry, so we will not see him try to contest priority in the lanes. The Yone, he takes a little bit more to scale and to get into his desired position, but he will be played into the Camille, and he can actually scale pretty well, and then he can actually match her when it comes to the side lane. He is definitely going to be the weakest side here in Invulnerables, but he can still handle himself pretty well as he does not have a resource bar. He can take advantage of that to do whatever he wants in that top lane, and at the same time, I don't think this Karma will have an easy time against the Vex, because battle mages usually are very favored into what are the control mages or the enchanters, because they not only spike much earlier than their counterparts, but they can actually out-team fight them very well and never let them get comfortable.
Especially with the maneuverability that a Vex has, the fact that she can reset on her ultimate, the fact that her abilities can go through minions as well makes it very, very difficult to try and position correctly in the lane. The fact that Karma's Q will get blocked by minions, whether it's mantra powered or not. You have to be really, really close to use the tether, and even if you get the movement speed and the shield from your E, it doesn't do very much to really provide you enough safety in the lane.
Yeah, I do find it interesting, though, that the Karma isn't going towards the bot side. They want safety for Caitlyn. They don't want to exploit it as a possible win condition, at least in this early game. They will want to nullify what Invulnerables can bring, and I do think that is the correct decision because their early game is absolutely bonkers. So the Braum is way better into engage supports than the Karma would be, even though Braum doesn't necessarily have the range advantage. But what he does have is a lot of explosiveness in the early game if he's played correctly. We rarely do see those early game plays with the Braum, but when we do, he's obviously very easy to pull off as soon as he can jump in front of a minion wave, as soon as he can hit that first stack of concussion. It's very easy for the Caitlyn also to follow up, even if she doesn't have that much ease of execution when it comes to resetting auto attacks, especially since her headshot mechanic was kind of changed with her visual update, which was weird, but still, it is a pretty solid bot lane to at least try to alleviate a little bit of the pressure that Invulnerables are going to try to bring.
And just to touch on that, actually, the level 1, Braum, one of the best level 1s in the game, of course, and it means that it kind of nullifies what, in theory, Invulnerables are capable of doing with this Nautilus, because, you know, he has a hook. He can go for these early invades, try and get something for Invulnerables for his team, a little advantage in the early game, try and punish Relic on this Gragas, perhaps, and because you have that Braum for, as you said, the concussive blows to stack that up, and the Caitlyn has such a obnoxiously long attack range, that it really makes it so they can't really make that level 1 play.
Yeah, so in that regard, yeah, I agree completely. Even if Draven and Nautilus don't want to leash, they want to get a position inside the lane to have a better wave to try to shove it in as fast as possible, to maybe try to look for plays in the rest of the map. That is a possibility, a very real one. In Portugal specifically, we've seen a lot of Predator Jins go towards that strategy.
Of course
They
you
get to
have.
level 3, they pick up the Predator, they run towards the mid lane, and they get first blood that way. But at the same time, even if they don't want to do that, they can pressure the Gragas. And the Gragas is basically the only shining light in the early game for RDE. So if the Gragas is shut down, they will have a very tough time reaching their power spikes and actually wanting to fight Invulnerables.
And speaking of Predator, do you reckon that we'll see Relic with Predator on this Gragas or something a little bit more traditional?
No, probably with the Predator, the Ingenious Hunter to go for the Rocket Belt cooldown reduction, the Zanya's cooldown reduction. I think it's pretty strong in Gragas overall, and the Predator is in a solid state right now. But of course, he
if you
is
see
an
a
early game
Jin with
champion.
Predator, it has to be in a solid state.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how the early game goes. I do think the Predator is vital for the Gragas to have any map pressure whatsoever. But I really don't think he can actually contest the Graves inside the jungle. And the first Scuttler isn't as important, so I guess Graves will have a harder time reaching spikes, but at the same time, the Gragas will also be pretty well served with the early game impact he can bring.
Yeah. Hopefully he can find that early game prowess, that early game impact. But as you said, we'll struggle to fight against the Graves in the jungle. But we have to talk about this top lane. It is a Yone versus a Camille. The Camille is opted in for teleport and ignite, so definitely wants to be going aggressive.
Yeah, the Ignite on Camille is pretty standard at this point. On most champions that actually have a lot of mobility, they usually bring the Ignite because the top lane meta is very weird. You usually wanted to avoid fights in the past. You would see tank versus tank, just wanting to manipulate waves, just wanted to play that top wave as well as possible. But nowadays, it's very easy to punish mistakes, but it's also easy to make said mistakes. And when the Ignite is there, if you make a mistake, you're probably gonna die. So even though Camille doesn't have that flash, it can be exploited. The hookshot should be enough to at least prevent any kind of pressure that the Yone can bring.
Well, we are onto the Rift for our first game of this best of 3 RDE Light versus Invulnerables. The usual line of scrimmage being drawn by both these teams.
Yeah, they're not looking towards anything fishy at this point. Of course, we do want to see Invulnerables being aggressive in this early game, but I don't think it's through the jungle because it's going to be very hard for Graves to do anything until the priority is achieved inside the laning phases, so we'll see exactly how that works. I do find it interesting that the Draven and the Yone both brought the lethal tempo to try to abuse that extra range, to try to abuse those extended trades, and that can actually make a difference, especially in the bot side, because this Draven will definitely hit first most of the times, especially when the Braum is trying to get himself between Caitlyn and the danger. So as soon as this Draven procs the lethal tempo, it'll be very easy for him to trade auto attacks with Caitlyn.
Yeah, you have to position perfectly to make use of that Caitlyn auto attack range, but as you said, can be quite difficult in the lane. You have to position around the minions, you have to position just in a picture perfect spot. But I think it's interesting when I have to mention the fact that Lonar has gone with the cleanse. I think it's proper, and you kind of have to versus a Braum, but you have exhaust on Moon.
Oh yeah, the exhaust makes sense on the Caitlyn to an extent. I do believe that it's very hard for her to be in range of anyone to actually press that exhaust. I don't think the Graves will ever be in range to even touch her, especially with the Braum in the middle. It's mostly for Yone and Vex when it comes to the late game, because they will be in melee range of her. They will probably try to one-shot her, and if that happens, the exhaust can probably prevent it and gain her time. And the cleanse, of course, is very useful on Lonar specifically because of the way that he can deal with the stun from Braum from his passive. But apart from that, maybe an exhaust would also be warranted to at least try to have that combat power. Cleanse will be a little bit harder to pull off. It's mostly to prevent mistakes from happening more than being proactive, and I do want to see this Draven Nautilus lane be more proactive.
And it goes back to Finnery that we discussed in Champion Select. Yeah. He has to pay attention to this bottom side. He has to try and get them snowballed. Can't do that if the wave is positioned the way it is, pushing in towards the side of Rising Dawn. You know, it's just the early part of the game, so we're expecting for a little bit of chip damage to be put down on either side.
Yeah, and Lonar isn't respecting the Caitlyn at this point in the game. Of course, she outranges him. She did bring the longsword as opposed to the Dorn's blade on the side of Invulnerables, which also has a bit more damage. It does not have the sustain, but the potions make up for it. And she is hurting a lot with those single auto attacks. And the more auto attacks she puts on, the more the attack damage matters, the difference. So the Draven is struggling a little bit, just picking up his axes, waiting for Graves to actually be towards this bot side to try to punish an overextension from the other side. And since the Gragas is currently doing his Scrugs, I do believe that Invulnerables are going to have the priority again in the bot side for Graves to look for something. But you won't find absolutely anything with that Squire's Bloom.
Nope, all he finds is that Rift Skull, which he is going to take. But Basta spots him out on a ward put by the wall towards that middle lane, so they know exactly where he is. They knew exactly where he was anyway because of that ward in the river for the side of ORDE, put down by, well, I assume is Bolly Bacon. The Gragas is towards the top side. I think the wave is in a certain position so that Chaos Senpai will not be caught out, but I say that and goes the hook shot, looking for something, gets the perfect execution, sorry, the perfect precision protocol down onto Chaos Senpai, misses the belly bop, and misses the cask as well. Chaos Senpai, he goes forward, but he'll have to go back, the Knight goes down. He's in a lot of trouble here. Graves can't get there on time. He doesn't have his flash expended just yet. I think he's going to get away. He uses it preemptively. Then comes Basa off to the side. One Mantra Power Q will get him. He flashes forward. He will find it. First blood to Basa B.
The Inner Flame is more than enough. He does not have the priority in the mid lane, but he does have a freeze setup, which lets the Karma roam topside and not lose absolutely anything. That is a big mistake by Loftician. He should have crashed the wave. He didn't. And then the Karma can actually just go there and do whatever she wants. Gets the last hit. That's a first blood. Very, very important to try to stop any kind of aggressiveness from the type of Vex. But they are now looking to punish Base, who couldn't hold a freeze and is now forced to slow push.
He spotted out the Nautilus, throws out the Mantra Powered Q, but he gets hooked anyway. He doesn't have his flash. He is going to go down. One more auto attack will do it. Loftician finds the first kill of the game.
A flashless Karma is a sitting duck, say Invulnerables Esports, as they regain the control over this mid lane. They did lose a member for that first blood onto Base, but at the same time, they do manage to make a very proactive play on this mid lane. And Relic is still looking for something. I don't think they win this 2v2 right now, especially since Loftician is around with the Gloom more than ready to try to fear their opponents. And regarding also the topside play, I don't think Chaos should have been in a position to die right there, but he also made a very grand escape, and Relic needs to be a bit more careful where he throws his body slams.
I mean, I think if Finri decided to body block the flash Q from Karma, he probably would have gotten away, but I don't think he was expecting the flash gap close. So
yeah, I don't think he was either, Yeah, that was a bit weird. I think that was the only way that Chaos Senpai actually dies in that position. But Finri was more concerned with what Relic could have brought, because the Gragas did have flash, so he could have still closed that gap if he so chose. So I guess he wasn't really paying attention to how the mid-wave was in that particular place. Since Loftician had recalled with a freeze, he probably assumed the Karma did as well, and that ended up costing them first blood.
Yep, you do strike back and get Loftician the first kill of the game for Invulnerables, so sitting at about 600, 500 gold lead at the 7-minute mark. They are down by a Drake, of course, it is the Mountain Drake, so nothing too much to worry about that. It's just the first Drake of the game, followed up by now an Ocean Drake in 4 minutes time. Wave state is looking pretty good for the side of Invulnerables in the bottom side, just ahead by a little bit of CS, stacking that call as well, so definitely not really expecting me fighting for the next 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, which is interesting. I did want to see them being a bit more proactive because of this.
Yeah, the Predator is used, knocked back with the stand aside. The Braum is the sacrificial lamb as Relic finds it.
Support deaths are good deaths, usually. It does help the Draven make it out with his Adoration stacks, 169 completely intact. But, again, as I was saying, I would expect proactivity to come from Lonar and Zimba, but that ended up not happening. He goes for the cult, so he just wants to survive until Caitlyn hits her power butt. Her mid game is not very good with that 1-2 items. Caitlyn doesn't have enough attack speed to be a threat. She doesn't have enough ways of pulling those headshots off to actually try to one-shot people. So that's when she is at her weakest. And that's where the Draven wants to shine. So Lonar is only trying to beat her to it so he can actually reign in the Rift until the Caitlyn hits those 3 items.
Relic towards his top side once again, but the rest of Invulnerables are nearby. He has to go back to his body. Hextech Ultimatum is issued, but the teleport is being channeled. Nice hook onto the enemy top laners. Loftition finds the kill. Relic has to flash away. He's on the wrong side of the rift, though. Finry and Zimbabwe on their way. Goes out the Q, flashes as well. He doesn't have the dash to get over the wall. Can he get away? It looks like he gets out. But Lonar, he's in the bottom lane. He's all on his own. A couple of headshots being thrown out with the Piltover Peacemaker as Relic. He's so low in the middle lane. The Knight gone down. Won't be enough to finish him off.
It won't be enough to get the kill in that situation, but Lonar is forced to cleanse the slow from the Winter's Bite in the bot side because on a 1v2, Draven can't do much more than get those Adoration stacks, but that's exactly what he's going for. With the call, he only wants to farm. He does not want to be aggressive, so it only makes sense. Oh no, he doesn't get the last hit on the Krog. But yeah, it only makes sense that they are not expending any kind of resources towards this bot side, so Lonar will still be farming towards that mid game. Here on the top side, we did see Chaos Senpai completely outplaying that 1v2. He hits the Fate Sealed onto 2. He hits also his third Q onto 2 people, and he makes it out unscathed, basically, as now we see Rising Dawn also trying to get some pressure in this top side, but I do believe the Herald is going to fall towards Invulnerables.
Yeah, you have to assume it does, but
he's recalling.
He's gonna back off instead. He's just like, no, I'm not gonna take the risk. Gragas towards the top side. We're not even gonna get any vision of this objective. We have a trifecta of wards around this position, so we'll know if he starts it off, hopefully. If you are an Invulnerables fan, but Gragas will just rotate back towards the bottom side, go for another full clear. 58 seconds until the Ocean Drake spawns, so he will be there to respond if it is started up by Finry.
Yeah, and it makes sense. That recall does make sense because the Graves had a lot of jungle still left to do. He is very ahead of the Gragas right now. He is the power farmer. Gragas is the early game menace, so it makes sense that it is going the way that it is, and Graves will be able to path from bot to top and be on the top Herald without any jungle to clear, so it will be more worth it in the long run. While this Gragas, yes, he can clear the couple camps that he has left, but he'll have to wait 20 more seconds to set up a dragon where Invulnerables will have the advantage on the tempo because the bot lane is coming back from a reset, the mid lane is coming back from a reset, and Yone just has his teleport ready right now to try to join his team in case a fight erupts. But I don't see a fight erupting right now. I don't think Rising Dawn even want to pull this dragon because they know that they can be fought out after, and the Herald could just fall towards Invulnerables with the dragon still staying up.
Vulnerables don't have sufficient vision around this objective to really warrant kind of encroaching onto the area, so it does force Relic and the rest of Rising Dawn away back towards that bottom lane, still having an aggressive posture around this objective, really showing that they're worth fighting, or they're ready to fight over it. Now pushing over this Relic Shrine, so they will be spotted out. It looks like they might start it off, and they will.
It turns out they didn't want the Rift Herald. They didn't want to accelerate their early game plan, which is weird. They want warranty, but right now Zimba
Miss-smite it, but still secures the objective. Teleport is coming in. Loftition, he just ults on into the backline. Volley Bacon, he has to save his own Bacon, try and get the hell out of there as Chaos Senpai. He does so much damage, but he has to go straight on back to his ethereal form. They find 2 in the fight.
And the Graves is still looking. I don't think he can do more than look as the Vex is also joining him in this dive.
They can find a second kill here.
Oh, that's a lot of damage.
Was the objective. A lot of damage goes down, but it doesn't gain them anything. Just gonna clear out the wave. Yet to stack in on these Adoration stacks for the Draven. They cannot play with fire. They aren't tanky enough to deal with this tower.
They aren't. They needed someone actually shoving that bot wave. They end up not getting anyone to do so, and they're gonna lose some pressure towards this top side. But the Yone just wants to fight all the time. I don't think he has enough kill pressure at this point, but the dive is still going to happen.
Yeah, that's the flash just to get the passive off on them, and they will find 2 kills underneath the tower, finally stacking in on those stacks for Lonar.
Finally, the adoration comes in while in the top lane.
Chaos Senpai, he has to go back to his form, but how does that interact? It really doesn't matter. Vestige of Eden gets taken out in the solo bolo.
I didn't know how that happened either. I didn't know if he could actually go back on that soul bound, but matter of fact is he does get the execute in the end. And I guess the 1v1 was possible after all because Vestige of Eden was way too far down that top side in the bot lane actually. Draven is just so far ahead
as well. He is line.
Yeah, he is online. English, woo! But yeah, Draven is very far ahead at this point. That was a lot of gold that he gained from that single play. It was a great dive, all in all, even though they took a while to do so because, well, Rising Dawn Esports Lite didn't really do anything in the rest of the map. They couldn't achieve anything in the rest of the map. So the fact that they stayed and wasted so much time from the enemy team to still get the kills that they wanted just goes to show that their early game plan is more than in effect at this point.
Well, we have the Chemtech Soul on the table today. Means that there is a lack of vision even more so than the Fog of War in the enemy jungle and in your own, of course. So you have to put control wards down to really get any semblance of vision in there. So we'll keep our eye on how the teams choose to play around that particular change in the map.
I do think it's an interesting change. It's way harder to set up vision. It's way worse for teams who are already behind because they can't set up vision to even try to get picks. So they just keep getting picked off again and again. They have no access to the map whatsoever, and they slowly get choked out of any kind of vision wars, but at the same time, the soul itself, oh, Lofty!
Oh, that damage! He flashes to secure it! Vestige of Eden, he's all on his own. Can he get the reset? He can, of course. He finds it. The knock-up. Vestige of Eden just needs one more hit from Chaos Senpai to finish him off. Good trend. Don't need to over-to-last Titian. I'm wrong. Nope. Chaos Senpai gets the kill.
He gets the kill with the third Q that he was stacking on the minions as all of this happened, and Finri also makes sure that the mid wave isn't left untouched. He gets the shove in. Is he even gonna try to dive here? I don't think he should, but at the same time, Invulnerables are just winning all around the map, and the Draven isn't even the problem. He only stacked the Cull now. He has an Immortal Shield Bow, yes, but that's not the greatest power spike for Draven himself, but they still want to go for the 2v2.
They're gonna go very aggressively here. The Braum gets caught out, but that's exactly why he wants to try and save Moon. Lonar doing so much damage. In comes Finnery now trying to finish off to get the scraps. Bali Bacon, he is dead. He's out of there. That's 2 for 1.
2 for 1 and Yone?
He's on his own. Has to go back to the ethereal form, but not gonna do enough. His W, it heals, but not quite enough to save his life.
Yeah, that's a hefty shutdown going over to Camille. 250 gold plus a 300. So it's pretty good. Not enough to close that gap. Not at all. But it's still pretty good. But now there are objective bounties. So, but yeah, the Draven did get 2 more kills. So that is a great sum of money that this Draven will have. He has 3k to go back right now. He can finish his second item. He can get something like a Bloodthirster, a Lord Dominic's. He's not even going to recall yet because he wants to stay for this dragon. And this Chemtech Soul is so important. Oh, no.
Oh, that's so much damage. Optician can just zoom on in to finish him off. Can get the reset, go onto Moon underneath the tower. Just gonna get the bop on him. He will give up his life for the double kill there. The shutdown going over to Relic. But they get the Chemtech Drake thanks to his sacrifice.
They do, and I do think it's important to get all the Drakes from now on. Not that the buff itself is that strong. Yes, you are stronger into champions who are lower health than you, and that is fine. But at the same time, that soul is just so important to be able to fight for a few more seconds, to be able to win team fights after everything seems lost is just huge. I already mentioned how Snowball works in the Chemtech Rift specifically, so I don't think Invulnerables are going to take their feet off the brakes at this point. And Chaos Senpai is doing a great job at stopping Rising Dawn from getting anything else in the rest of the map, because these objective bounties could still come in these tier 1s. The Herald should also be secured now by Invulnerables, as they do not want the gold to be restored.
You say that, but Relic is towards the top side, is around this Rift Herald, spots it out being taken thanks to that Scryer's Bloom. Loftition off to the side as well. Draven's the only one not at the party, so as you said, will be secured by the side of the Vulnerables, just because Finry was around that objective, showed himself they couldn't commit themselves to try and go for the steal.
Yeah, and it's fine that Invulnerables get it. It's not that huge of a Rift Herald. They don't need to use it to open the map. It's more so that on the side of Rising Dawn, they wanted that bounty. They wanted the possibility actually to even try to open even more of the map as they try to look towards those tier 1s. And right now, they are completely stuck. We see the Caitlyn and the Braum that should be aggressive. They should have destroyed that bot side. They can't do anything. They can only prevent the side of Invulnerables from trying to get even further ahead in this mid lane. But when it comes to the side lanes, they are playing absolutely perfectly, and I do not think Rising Dawn will be up in time to even contest for the next 2 dragons.
And your Kate is an entire item behind, a couple of long swords compared to the Lord Dominic's Regard. You have a Gale Force, which you can use either offensively or defensively. But if the Nautilus hooks you, not really going to be able to get away with that. You need to use your flash, your exhaust, pretty much everything. Throw the entire kitchen sink at him, try and get away, and then you're going to be hit with the Nautilus ultimate as well. So unless your Braum is playing bodyguard and playing it so well, not really going to be getting away with your life there. Even if you're almost the same on CS, just the amount that you've cashed in with those adoration stacks, the kills, the assists, you're just so far ahead, and you're going to reach that Caitlyn mid-game power trough as well. It's so famous for Caitlyn. It's not as much as it was in recent seasons, but it's still very much present.
Yeah, it is very much present. It's not as much as it once was. Yes, she's still very good at objective control. She's still very good at setting up those traps. She's still very good at semi-consistent DPS, especially with Kraken Slayer specifically, but with Gale Force, it's very much situational what she can bring in, as Vestige is forced off his side lane.
He might survive. I say that, but gets hit in the face with the hook, uses the Hextech ultimatum, but Lonar gets his 4th kill of the game. Might be able to get something else for the side of Invulnerables. They just get bursted down. They just disappear off the face of Summoner's Rift. The teleport now being challenged, but they are not there on time to try and save Loctician's life. And Bassa helps pick up the 7th kill of the game for the side of RDE Light. The Draven is online, baby. Look at that damage. They just finish off everyone on the side of RDE Light except for Bassa. He just has to sit there and watch as his base crumbles.
And we were sleeping on Lonar to an extent because his laning phase was very quiet, but the moment he started popping off, his positioning was perfect. He didn't miss an axe. He flashes in, gets another last hit, and this Draven is completely unstoppable. More turrets getting torn apart inside the base of Rising Dawn. 1 inhibitor taken down, and the map is completely in favor of Invulnerables, who have brought themselves an over 10,000 gold lead.
And most of that's on your Draven. That's exactly who you wanted on. Loftition not doing too badly as well. Finry and Chaos Senpai definitely sitting pretty on their 1.5 item power spikes. Make that 2 items now for Finry with that Bloodthirster finished off. They are tempting the Baron here, or making it seem like as if maybe they went for that objective, but they're not going to tempt fate. They're going to back reset, get some of that item power spikes that they know and love, spend all of that gold that they collected. A 2 item power spike coming on board for pretty much everyone on the team except for Zimbabwe.
Yeah, and that's huge for the Yone specifically. Getting that Infinity Edge, that 100% crit chance power spike is huge on the Yone, and now he'll be completely unstoppable in the side lane. I don't think Caitlyn and Karma together can actually bring him down, and the Caitlyn might actually fall if the Yone actually managed to hit everything. The Karma might not because of the Crown of the Shadowed Queen. It is a lot of protection. I haven't mentioned it yet, but it is a great item to stop burst, to stop 100 to zeros from happening. It is a great shield for most control mages, but I don't think it is enough for this Karma, especially since she didn't bring the first strike. She didn't accelerate enough to get to that point, and now the Crown is just slightly better Everfrost, and that's not where you want to be with a champion that can offer so much more in team fights.
Yeah, definitely not, and it means that Invulnerables get both objectives that spawned, and they just go straight onto Relic. He has to flash and belly bop to try and get away, but the ultimate is used by Chaos Senpai. Just knocked back into Relic almost was enough to give him the kill. Have to try and snipe it away with the pull over Peacemaker. And the objective bounty was stolen. It was claimed by the side of RDE.
But the Baron was at 500 HP. There was a smite. Finry let that slip, and the Karma steals it? Was that a normal inner flame? Was it Mantrid? I have no idea.
I was looking at the Caitlyn because he used his EQ at the same time, so that's why
I was looking at the Graves, and he bursted it down. He auto-queued at 1100 and he didn't smite? That was so weird, but that's not only a huge buff that won't let Invulnerables finish the game just yet, but the objective bounty was also huge. That's 2,000 gold recuperated for the side of Rising Dawn Esports, and now they can finish their second items. There are 2 Shadow Flames already on Base and Relic. They're definitely sure to destroy any kind of shields on the other side and get that extra burst necessary to try to win fights through the power of burst.
Still feels like Invulnerables are firmly in the driver's seat here. It doesn't feel like that 2,000 gold is really going to put them back into this game, but buys them a little bit of space, a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Makes them not exactly relax, but makes them kind of go, oh wait, okay, guys, just chill out, turtle up. We got this. We can come back into this game.
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough to actually win them the game at this point. They'll have to go through many other hardships. They will have to try to win
a lot of hoops,
many fights, but I don't think Invulnerables should have let this happen at this point, because now it's very hard to close the game in the next couple minutes. It's gonna be dependent on that Chemtech Soul, which was what they were already working towards, but now they know for certain that they're gonna need it to finish this game.
Yeah, definitely going to be keeping our eyes on that 2.5 minutes until that final Drake spawns. Assuming that Invulnerables are the ones that pick it up. Otherwise, then, you know, of course, there would be more Drakes spawning. 3.5 minutes, just over, until the Baron spawns. Super Minions now conga lining towards that bottom lane, just forcing RDE off of this tier 2 tower in the top side. Vestige of Eden off to the side.
Oh, that's so much damage.
Finnery, that's so much damage. Vestige of Eden, he's just onto the back line, onto the face of the Graves. They find 2 quick kills, and they just force Invulnerables back. Lonar, he's all on his own. He's definitely a Lonar right there. He's locked into the Hextech Ultimatum. They find 4 quick kills. Loftician, he's the only one alive.
They shouldn't be looking towards sieging a tier 2 at this point. They should stay together, prevent Rising Dawn from doing anything with this Baron, from doing anything with what little gold they actually got back from this Baron Nashor, and stop fighting. Wait for that soul. They didn't do any of it. They try to push their advantages, and they completely fumbled the execution, and now objective bounties are being claimed. The base is rejuvenating as the inhibitor comes back to life, and Rising Dawn Esports are barely behind anymore.
From a 10,000 gold deficit for Rising Dawn Esports Lite to a 5,000 gold deficit. Definitely looking a lot more doable the further this game goes on. 55 seconds until this next Drake spawns.
And it's still pretty okay scaling. The Caitlyn hasn't reached her 3rd item yet, so she's still a little bit in an awkward position to an extent, at least compared to the Draven, who has his Infinity Edge. But that Shadow Flame was so impactful during this little squabble in the top side, with the burst that it could bring, with the way that they could just pick off members from the enemy team and make sure they had enough damage to finish them off. And I don't think it'll work in a 5v5 scenario, and that's why Invulnerables are now trying to group, but there he goes!
Loptician goes golden, buys a lot of time, a lot of space, but Relic, he's
Loner?
down to half HP. He picks off the Draven. The Draven is down. That's all of the damage for Invulnerables. And the Graves, not quite enough to get one back, but Chaos Supply has to go back to his ethereal form. He goes golden, buys a little bit of space, but he has to go straight on back. He has to flash out. He has to try and get away. That's 2 for 1 so far in the fight, and it looks like the objective are going to go to RDE.
Yeah, I don't think they can get the soul now. They probably already couldn't, even if this fight didn't happen, because they were sit back for no reason whatsoever. They could try to pressure the sideline while this happens, but they ended up not doing either. They, again, fumbled the execution during the team fight. Lonar is completely isolated from the rest of the team with the Hextech ultimatum, and then he is just shut down. He needs a stopwatch as soon as possible, a Guardian Angel, anything of the sorts to try to make sure that Invulnerables are, as the name says, invulnerable.
And I think it's worth mentioning at this point, during the seeding tournament for this playoffs, these two teams did meet each other, and Rising Dawn Esports Light were the victors, but have to preface that with the fact that their AD carry was playing top lane.
Yeah, but at the same time, there is that history between the teams, and there is that competitive drive to an extent. Zimba!
In he goes, and out he goes.
It makes no sense that he would... Yeah, it makes no sense that he would be so far up trying to stop a wave. The entire team of Invulnerables are just playing alone. They are not able to get advantages in the rest of the map. They are not recognizing where and when they can actually finish this game, and now the Baron Nashor is starting to get contested while the Yone is teleported upon.
Yeah, Vestige wants to go for this fight. He's level 16 to level 16. Chaos Supply has his ultimate, does not have his flash. He's underneath the tower, just trying to buy some time for his team, I guess, but Vestige of Eden will finish him off with Precision Protocol. They're trying to go for the end. They're going to try and take this
at least inhibitors.
Will manage to take it. Might have to get the second one as well, just forcing the rotation all the way across the map for the side of Invulnerables. Looks like they might be able to chase them down. Bolly Bacon has his ultimate. If he wants to try and close the gap, has a flash as well with the Winter's Bite for the concussive blow. Sacking. In he goes, gets the fear. Loptician goes golden to buy a little bit of space, but Lonar, he's all on his own. He has to flash away himself. That's the proc of his Immortal Shield Bow, but he's still dead to rights. That's 2 kills to the side of Rising Dawn Esports Light, as 3 minutes until the next objective comes up, but they can take the Baron.
And I could understand the intention from the side of Invulnerables, wanting to take that inhibitor, wanted to get Rising Dawn off of the Baron Nashor to get the jungler to actually respawn and be able to contest the objective, but they had no way out. They can't even get the second inhibitor out of the fight, and this Karma is just dealing so much damage with those Mantra Qs at this point that the Draven can't even play the game. The traps are set up, and I don't believe Rising Dawn have any way of losing this objective.
Double TP coming in, 1 apiece. They're trying to defend this Baron take. Hextech ultimatum makes him unstoppable. Zimbabwe gonna try and pick him up, but Chaos Supply, he'll eventually go down, trading 1 for 1. The Baron is going to be taken in favor of Rising Dawn Esports Light. The Draven ultimate not quite on time. And that puts them within a shouting range of the goal difference.
Wow, how did this game get here? I kept mentioning how the Chemtech Rift doesn't allow for teams who are behind to actually get enough vision to try to get picks, but Invulnerables basically shot themselves in the foot by trying to push those leads without enough vision inside the Chemtech Fog. They ended up being the ones getting picked off, as Rising Dawn actually managed to turtle up pretty nicely, and that's the second Baron of the game. The gold lead is completely even. Caitlyn is at 3 items, and the entirety of Rising Dawn Esports Light are primed and ready to take over the map.
This is what happens when you're playing versus a Gragas and you're not playing proactively. If you let him Predator, Flash, Belly Bop onto you, use his ultimate, if you don't have Zhonya's or a stopwatch, you're going to be bursted down completely. You have a 3-item Caitlyn that you're against as well, and a 2-item Bolly Bacon on this Braum. They're definitely set up to be going for these fights, and the last couple of fights that we've seen them in, they've emphatically won. Yeah,
exactly, and big props to Shadowflame I guess. What a great item. It's basically letting the team that's behind out damage at every point, and that's absolutely fascinating. Thank you, Riot Balance team, once again for bringing such a beautiful moments of League of Legends.
Give a shout out to them.
Yeah, objective bounties as well. You guys just keep surprising. And look at the damage that a Karma Q is dealing at this point. That's basically just the Shadow Flame, and now, as Invulnerables try to retake the map, not only they have to fight against a Baron-empowered minions, but they have to face-check an entire team to get their soul, and I don't think they can. It's gonna go over to 7 Drakes this game.
Not even gonna try. I think they're gonna just push for the end here. As Graves, he's teasing it. He's looking to go in. Vestige of Eden goes in himself with the hook shot over the wall. They've started off on the Chemtech Drake, and that is it. Yep, they're gonna just rush it down mid. Hopefully they can get there on time. Teleport is available for Vestige of Eden, but they've Baron recalls. Of course they do. Of course they do. They didn't even try and get this Chemtech soul. They're not gonna get anything for it.
Yeah, I mean, you can do this against normal recalls, and you probably would get an inhibitor out of it, maybe chip damage on the Nexus turrets. You can't do that into Baron-empowered recalls. They not only get the drag extremely fast, they have no way of actually finishing the game into those 4-second recalls. They do get the waves in their favor in mid lane and kind of in bot lane, but
they're
at the
trying
same
in
time,
bottom lane.
It's just not enough. The Baron is finally over, so it might be a little bit easier to push these waves, but Invulnerables are at a stalemate. They have nothing to do in the entire map. They have so many power spikes and so little ways to use them.
Whew. Right. So, 2 minutes 40 seconds until the next objective. That is, of course, the Baron Nashor. Both these teams want to rush that down, finish this game off, get the first win in this best of 3. But we might be playing for the next Chemtech Drake in 3 minutes 46 seconds, which will be Chemtech Soul for both of these teams, if either of them get it.
So it is the dragon to end all dragons. Chemtech Soul is absolutely fantastic. Whichever team gets it will probably have a huge advantage coming into the rest of the game, if there is even a rest of the game after that dragon fight. But I do think Rising Dawn are finally confident to actually try to siege themselves, especially when the Caitlyn is in the shape that she is right now, especially when the Karma is such a threat when it comes to poke. But it's still very hard to judge. They're trying to make as little mistakes as possible, as little positioning errors as they can. And on the other side, Invulnerables, they still don't know what to do. They can't shove side lanes. They can't play for team fights because they will lose, and they are just slowly getting outskilled.
And when they had a 10,000 gold lead, that's what's so surprising about it.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea how they let that go. I mean, they do get outscaled because the Camille eventually doesn't care about the Yone damage. She's very good, especially when empowered with a Karma, to try to isolate whichever of the carries are on the side of Invulnerables. And this Caitlyn is an end-all be-all hyper carry that is even further empowered by the side of Karma. There is so much disengage with the Braum, the Gragas, and the Karma herself. So it's very hard for Invulnerables to even try to force team fights in a late game scenario. So it just seems like the perfect storm for the side of Rising Dawn, as they are trying to bait the enemy team into a team fight.
Yeah, but Invulnerables have that Rift Shrine, so they know they haven't started off. In goes Vestige of Eden, he's onto the AD carry. Lonar in the back line, but Shutdown goes the way of Moon's Killer, Chaos Senpai. Vestige of Eden, he'll go down himself, ticking with Ignite, but he'll just about survive. Loctician will give up his life for that one kill onto Moon.
That is a 1-for-1, but the Vex basically did her job by going in, bursting them down, absorbing a little bit of pressure with her stasis. That should be more than enough. But Lonar didn't die, and that's the most important thing. Still, Rising Dawn want to fight this, and I don't think that's the most brilliant of ideas, as this Draven seems to be very well poised to take over the game at this point, and this Baron will have to wait.
Baron will have to wait for the time being, but both these teams definitely posturing around the objective. They want to start off, and they will on the side of Invulnerables. They know that has been started, or they suspect it has been started because of that ward in the back of the pit. 3,000 HP now has to go forward to try and steal it. He's stolen. That's the second steal for the side of Rising Dawn Esports Light in this game. You just aren't allowed to take a Baron, Finry.
Is Finry's F key even working? Referees, can we get a confirmation? I don't know. Why is this happening? How is the Graves, one of the easiest champions to secure Baron with the burst that he has, not able to take Baron not once, but twice? And the first time, there wasn't even a smite on the other side. This time, okay, it was a 50-50. I was even looking at Gragas. Maybe he didn't even smite, but alas, that is not the point. Still,
if neither junglers smited that, then I don't know what to tell you.
And I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know what's going on. All I know is, Finry, check your F key. Could be broken. Replace your keyboard. That's all.
But it is what I said about 4 minutes ago. We'll be playing around this Chemtech Soul. That's definitely what we're doing. Vulnerables just start off. They'll just take
that's it.
Completely uncontested. Relics in base.
Exactly, because he died when he got that Baron, so it kind of makes it slightly better for Invulnerables, because the Gragas did kill himself to get that Baron, and he wouldn't be up in time to contest this Chemtech Soul. But I do believe this Soul holds a lot of power, and the third Baron of the game, even though it's probably the closest Rising Dawn has ever been this game in terms of gold, I think it's going to be the least effective of the bunch, because this Chemtech Soul will basically make it impossible for them to win fights over a prolonged period of time. Even if they burst someone down, the damage is still there on the other side to take it over. We'll see if the gold lead is enough, as Vestige is open. No.
Over the wall. He's okay. He is A-okay.
Sterak's okay.
Has that shield from the Sterak's just to get him out. Thank you very much, production, for highlighting that. With the Soul, with the Chemtech Soul, you will revive for a short amount of time, like a Scion passive, to try and deal a little bit more damage to get the trade or the fight back in your favor.
Yeah, and that is absolutely massive, especially when I said that one of the biggest win conditions for the side of Invulnerables was, well, invulnerability. If the Draven got a GA, which he's not going for, actually, he's going for the rapid fire cannon, probably to start stacking the lethal tempo as soon as possible, so he can have the advantage of the range for the rest of the fight. But still, if he had a GA, this Draven, even after dying, can still be so good for his team, because the side of Rising Dawn have to invest so many resources to burst down one member, and yes, that usually is enough because Invulnerables run out of steam to fight, but if that's not enough to kill someone, I don't think Rising Dawn can actually get ahead. Now, yes, there's a Chemtech Soul, yes, the Baron isn't going to amount to much from the side of Rising Dawn, but I do believe we can still see this game going towards an Elder Dragon.
I definitely think that is a possibility, but you have to defend your inhibs for it to really go the distance. And it looks like Invulnerables are just going to barrel down this middle lane, try and take that mid lane inhib, maybe rotate over to that bot lane inhib as well. But so far, looks like they're just going to back up. The Caitlyn Traps is going to dissuade them just a little bit.
Until they actually get one of those inhibitors down, they can't reliably split push that top side. So they're just trying to group up, try to bait Rising Dawn into a team fight, because they will definitely come out ahead with their Chemtech Soul. They should, of course. I'm saying definitely a lot this game, and a lot of things aren't going the way they should be going.
We're just cursing them, Manufire. We're just
completely caster cursing them right now in Vulnerables. But at the same time, Rising Dawn don't need to worry about much. They can wait for those objectives. They can wait to try to burst them down or steal them, as that's been the plan for the game, and it's been working so far. And they should be fine from that point onwards. But until they can actually get a Baron or an Elder Dragon to try to contest this Chemtech Soul, it's very hard for them to find fights. At the same time, I don't think Invulnerables want to go into any turret at this point. They should try to grab vision, which is very hard with the Soul in question. They should try to sneak an inhibitor to pull the enemy team into places they're not comfortable with, and try to get that perma priority to try to open the rest of the base. If they don't succeed in that way, I do believe Rising Dawn are stronger in future fights.
And just touching on the gaining vision point that you made, it's going to be even more difficult as the game goes on, as you are finishing off your builds to gain that vision, since you have to have a control ward in that Chemtech fog.
Yeah, I would want to see ward stones coming out from the side of Bolly Bacon and Zimba, because they can actually have those control wards with full build, and the item is pretty good when it comes to stats as well for the support, so it's not a power trough in any way, shape, and form. But they don't seem to be going towards that just yet. They haven't finished all of their other items yet, so I would like to see that ward stone coming in as soon as possible, so that vision is always granted when needed.
It's all about the vision game. 25 seconds until Baron spawns. It's going to be the 4th Baron of the game. A lot of Barons this game, actually, funnily enough.
Yeah.
1 minute, 22 seconds until the Elder spawns. Might be a coin flip here between the two teams. Kind of almost a handshake. But I think whoever gets the Elder Drake will be the ones to win the game.
I do believe Nautilus had a window over there to try to start a team fight. He ended up not going for it because a mistake can cost him the game. But both teams are looking and neither are finding anything. What is very important, though, is that the hook shot cooldown is off. So, if Invulnerables try to start a fight right now, Lonar should be a little bit more safe behind his front line, but the hook shot should be open already at this point, and that cooldown ended up not mattering. At the same time, the poke from the Karma from the Caitlyn is way too much to handle, and Finnery goes back to his jungle.
Just a little bit of a side point here, just waiting on Lonar and Loftician to get that level 18 on the side of RDE Light. There's only one player in Bolly Bacon that doesn't have that level 18 point, sitting at level 16.
Yeah, mostly because of the Barons. It's been 3 Barons. That's a lot of EXP for everyone. So they are level 18 at this point, while the side of Invulnerables are still waiting for that. But neither team wanted to get Baron. They are currently sitting at Elder. 6 seconds to go. But I don't think this poke is very nice for the side of Invulnerables.
It's a line of Caitlyn traps. Somebody goes in. He uses the ultimate. It is just okay. It is not amazing. No. It does not save the team fight or get them very much of anything. Loftician has to go golden, but he gets bursted down anyway, and out he comes straight from the soul. He doesn't even do enough damage to try and get a kill with that ethereal form, with that zombie form of his Vex. And now that means the objective, it looks like it's going to go over to the side of RD Light.
Gonna take a while. Oh.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, but they can take the team fight. I say that for Chaos Senpai. He's doing so much damage. He teleported back in to try and save the team fight, to try and save the objective. And Lonar, that's so much damage coming in from the axes. Resurrecting now, thanks to the Guardian Angel, but everyone on the side of RDE Light are dead. A triple kill now for the Draven. The objective in the game will go over to Invulnerables.
So that fight ends up going towards Invulnerables, and in no way, shape, and form was that due to the soul, because the 3 people that pulled it off never got to die. So they just make it out of the fight with a huge performance from Lonar, who ends up not dying in the backside of that fight. The Vex ends up not mattering enough when it comes to the damage, but the Yone is so strong, so hard to pin down. What a win from Invulnerables.
After a 10,000 gold lead. After a 10,000 gold lead. Coming through for Invulnerables. It's just... I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say.
Yeah,
I'm gonna fix my camera now in a second.
Yeah, go ahead. I could take over, but yeah. It was a very interesting game. It was a very, very prolonged game at that. So there was a lot of room for outplays, there was a lot of room for a lot of things, but most of all, Lonar ended up showing up big in the end of that game. The Draven did have the highest amount of damage throughout the entire game with 26,000, and that was absolutely huge because that last team fight was very, very interesting to watch. Both teams knew that the Elder Dragon was going to be the end-all be-all. And Invulnerables didn't even need that Chemtech Soul to pull it off. They just managed to position very nicely to survive the burst, and that was more than enough for them to get away with a lead. And now they are 1-0. We'll see if they can pull it off as we head down towards the rest of the series.
Well, hopefully my camera should be fixed now. It was a disconnect issue on my browser. I'm not sure if it's working. Oh, it's showing as an icon. Beautiful. We'll fix it break. It's okay. There always has to go something wrong in EA production. It was on my side, not the producer. Don't blame them. But yeah, it was such a back and forth game. I'm shocked that it even got within 1,000 gold after a 10,000 gold lead for an Invulnerables.
Yeah.
Very well done on them to actually claw their way back into the game. But Rising Dawn definitely making this series interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's way closer than probably when we anticipated, which means there's a lot of room for both teams to take it away. Of course, the match point is difficult. It is a best of 3, so this first victory mattered a lot for either team. So we'll see exactly how Rising Dawn Esports Lite actually adapt towards the second game, because the early game cannot go so far into the other team's favor.
Well, we are going to go to a quick break before we bring you the second game of this best of 3, Rising Dawn Esports Lite versus Invulnerables. You don't want to miss it.